What is going on, everyone? And in this video, I'll be giving you my UFC London main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. If you're obviously in the States, if you're in Eastern time, so that's pretty cool because you have a lot of late fights and it's cool because we're used to it and stuff. But it's nice to have like an early card at 1 p.m. So that's pretty good. And obviously London taking it back to London, so the crowd should be definitely hyped up for this. And they've got a pretty good amount of fights on here. Some pretty good fights. The main event I think is going to be a pretty good fight. Arnold Allen versus Dan Hooker, good fight. Paddy Pimblett versus Kazula Vargas, and Molly McMahon is on the card. Gunnar Nelson. I think it's going to be a pretty good card. You got some fights on the prelims that I thought were going to be on the main card as well. So this should be good. As far as last week was concerned, coming in 8-6, you saw Magomed Ankalaev taking on Thiago Santos in that main event, and that was a very good win for him. Not the most exciting fight, obviously, but still, regardless, was a pretty good win. Alex Pereira getting the job done over Bruno Silva in a fight where he didn't really look too good. He had to deal with some things in that fight, but he didn't look as impressive as people are talking about him fighting Adesanya and stuff. I don't know about all that yet. Terrence McKinney going out there, and I think he got a little bit humbled in this fight. He was definitely winning that fight. He was beating him up. Dober was able to come back, though, with the veteranness and get that win over Terrence McKinney. But I do think this is one of those situations where McKinney's going to just come back even stronger, and he'll be ready to go, just obviously being the younger fighter. Roundtree Jr., looking really good in his fight, getting the victory over Carl Robertson. That was pretty good. He's definitely not getting reckless as he used to. He's kind of honing in on being an overall good mixed martial artist. For Sadiq Yusuff getting unanimous decision win over Alex Caceres. Song Yadong looking real good against Marlon Moraes. He's going to be a problem in that division. And then, like I said in the main event, Magomed Ankalaev getting that unanimous decision over Thiago Santos, so that was pretty good. Not the most exciting fight, but I really like this Song Yadong getting that victory. He's looking really clean, so I have to see what he's looking like in the future, and I expect him to be a pretty big problem for a lot of these people. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the main card of the next event, UFC London. So in the first fight on the main card, we have Jai Black Country Banger Herbert taking on Ilya El Matador Topuria. So for this one, Herbert is coming in with 11-3 record. Topuria is coming in with 11-0. Both are coming off of a victory, but with Herbert probably being he's going to be the bigger fighter, and then also he's going to have the bigger reach, as well as his legs as well. So with that being said, we have Jai Herbert coming in with a win over Kamaworthy via round 1 KO TKO in a fight where Kamaworthy, I would actually say, was doing pretty good in that fight. He was landing some pretty good shots, but he got a little bit reckless in there, and Herbert was able to take advantage of that. But at the same time, Herbert, he's a lengthy dude. He's definitely quick. Got a pretty good right hand, good high kick as well. He picks his shots pretty decently. He's not like a wild man, not to say. Takedown defense, though, I would say against top level competition, is better grapplers, I guess you could say, is not the best. We saw that against Renato Moicano, and then obviously against Francisco Trinaldo. But those are two pretty solid guys in the division, so it's nothing really take away from him. But it's against a better grappler, he might have a little bit of trouble with that. Obviously, you have Ilya Topuria. I think he's going to be the better fighter in this fight. I think he might have the grappling advantage. If not, he is going to have the grappling advantage in this fight. If he decides to use that as well. We saw him against Yusuf Zalal getting 5 takedowns in that fight. So, he's not necessarily, in his past 2 fights have been, well, they didn't really go that long to get to that point. But, I think it is there if he needs to use it. So, if things get a little bit tricky on the feet, maybe he decides to go for the grappling, take him down. Obviously with the size advantage, he's going to have to close that distance. He has to get in tight. He has to get that power, but I think he has great power in close, and that's just something that could be a problem for Herbert. Topuria, he looks pretty dangerous in close, so I think he can connect with Herbert, or he could just beat him up over the course of 3 rounds. He has to watch out, though, if Herbert, is able to, if Herbert's able to probably keep that distance and make it tough for Topuria to come on the inside, or if he's going to make it a problem for Topuria coming on the inside, right? So if he does and he starts lighting him up a little bit, and then Topuria is diving in for takedowns, that's not good. But I just think the Topuria, he's going to be able to get on the inside and do a lot of damage in close and take advantage of. But he has to be careful. Yeah, he definitely has to be careful. But I really liked how he handled Ryan Hall. He didn't give in to any of his crap. Against Damon Jackson, he just shut him down. So he's definitely got power in close. I just feel like that could be a problem here. Now, whether or not he's able to get a finish, we'll have to see. But I will say, for Herbert, the only reason I'm not saying he's gonna get KO'd here is just because I like what against Renato Moicano, he lost via submission. Against Ronaldo, he was able to lose that fight in the 3rd round. But he's tough, man. Like, he's definitely tough. And he can be dangerous. I guess we'll have to see. But I'm going to go Ilia Topuria on this one. I just think he can close that distance, get on the inside when he needs to, get the takedowns if he needs to. And then I think he just close that distance and pretty much dominate him. Whether or not he gets a finish here, obviously that would be a good thing for him. But I'm actually going to go Ilia Topuria to defeat Jai Herbert. I'm going to take him to win by a pretty unanimous decision. And so we go on into the next fight, and we have Molly McCann taking on Luana Carolina. Molly Meatball McCann, and then Luana Dread Carolina. 11-4 for McMahon, 8-2 for Carolina. This is probably, obviously you have McCann coming into this fight, probably getting the pop, being the crowd favorite. So, the crowd would probably be into it for that. I think if it was just in another fight, I don't know if it'd be the best fight to be watching. Not because, either of them suck or anything like that, but just I think, not much might happen in this fight. For McCann, coming in with 11-4 record, coming off a win over Ji Young Kim via decision. Pretty good hooks in close, pretty good power in close. Her cardio is definitely good. She's aggressive. She can grapple. I think obviously she'll be the one to grapple in this fight. Her striking, though, I would say definitely can get careless, and that's just a problem, right? Against a better striker, just on the feet, if you're getting a little too crazy with it, you're just going to leave yourself exposed. And we saw that in her last fight where she got dropped, I think, against Ji Young Kim. So that was a little... I guess she didn't get dropped, but she definitely took some shots in that fight. So I would like a little bit more of a defense, especially if she's facing someone like Luana Carolina, who's gonna have that reach advantage and is gonna try to take advantage of that and probably want to keep the fight standing. I would definitely have to get a little bit more defense or just look for a more grappling heavy game. And then we have Carolina coming in. She obviously is gonna have to have good takedown defense, and I liked what we saw in her last fight against Lupi Godinez. She did get, I guess they gave Godinez two takedowns, but I don't think she had a problem getting back up, and she wasn't just stuck in that position for the entire fight. So that was definitely good to see. But she's gonna have to defend the takedowns because I would expect them to be coming. Her striking is gonna be more clean. She's not gonna be fighting I don't think she's gonna leave herself as exposed on the feet. And then obviously, like I said, the grappling is probably going to be the weakness. She's going to have to put an emphasis on defending the takedown, keeping this fight standing, keeping this fight at a distance, using her length to her advantage. And if McMahon starts to brawl, just don't engage with it. Just keep fight smart, keep a distance, piece her up from a distance, and see what you can do with that. I think it's going to be a tough fight, even though McMahon's going to be the home favorite. She's going to have to really get in close, shut her down, push her against the fence, land that clinch striking, go for the takedowns, keep her down on the floor when she gets her down, and then not get outstruck badly on the feet. So she really have to make it a war, and I feel like for her, it's going to be a hard fight. So again, this fight might not be the best fight on the card. Could be a lot of clinch against the fence, stuff like that, and the striking might not be the best as well. But I think Carolina is going to be able to piece her up on the feet, not get taken down consistently, and kind of be a problem just having that length advantage and kind of be a little bit annoying through it. So I'm going to go Luana Carolina to defeat Molly McMahon in her hometown via a decision. And then so we move on into the third fight on the main card, and we have Gunny Nelson taking on Takashi Ten Sato. This is a pretty solid fight. It's a weird fight, though, because we haven't seen Gunnar Nelson in the octagon since September 28th of 2019. That is It's a pretty decent layoff, especially when you're fighting top level competition. Now that being said, injuries, whatnot, just fight cancellation, all that stuff. So we have to see how he looks. A little bit of rust probably, but he was fighting top level competition. You know, he's coming off a unanimous decision loss against Gilbert Burns in a fight where he was a little bit gun shy. That was a really low volume fight. Before that, he's coming off a loss against top contender Leon Edwards. Another fight where it was kind of low volume. Edwards was just able to land the better strikes, but it was a split decision loss. So he's fought top level competition. He's definitely used to fighting top level guys, but in his past 2 fights, he fought 2 of the best guys and was not able to get it done, regardless if it was a slow fight or whatever. And that's one thing I would have to say about Gunnar Nelson is just his game is he's a little bit too patient. And I think if, look at that split decision loss against Leon Edwards, he obviously got outstruck in that fight, but he's got to do a little bit more than 9 strikes, right? Nine landed strikes at least. So that's a little concerning. His grappling game, he was able to take Edwards down 3 times. So against someone like that, that's pretty impressive. So I think here in this fight, he's going to have the better grappling. Now for Soto, he's coming off a loss over Miguel Baeza via round 2 arm triangle, which to me is a little bit concerning because Sato was definitely doing a little bit better in that fight, right? So on the feet, I think he's pretty dangerous. He's got that in and out attack. He's got kind of like a blitzing attack as well, so that's pretty good to see. Good speed, good left hand, but the takedown stuff, right? So when he got taken down in that fight, Baeza was able to get the victory, obviously. And I would look at Gunnar Nelson a better grappler than Miguel Baeza if he's improved anything from his last couple of fights. So Sato's got to definitely do a little bit more in this fight if he wants to really keep this fight standing. He's going to have to defend those takedowns, stay off the octagon, keep pressing forward, get in his face, land more strikes, and he's really going to have to overwhelm Nelson on the feet and then at the same time defend all the takedowns and the grappling exchanges, which I think for him is going to be a little bit difficult because, like I keep saying, if Nelson's improved anything from his last 2 fights, this dude's used to fighting top-level competition, even though he's obviously not been in a fight. The only thing I will say about Nelson is that, if he lets the fight get a little bit too close because he's not able to implement too much grappling, he's going to get outstruck against top-level competition because he just doesn't throw a lot. And that could be because of his style, right? His stance, his karate stance. He's looking to pick his shots too much, so he ends up not really throwing anything of significance, and that's just really going to affect him. But he's very dangerous when it comes to submissions, so I would definitely look for him in this fight to grapple. And I think he's able to do that without getting destroyed on the feet. It's going to be night-night. He's going to get that rear naked choke. He's going to get some sort of submission against Sato, and it'll just be a matter of time. So I'm going to take Gunnar Nelson in this fight to defeat Takashi Sato, and I'm going to take him in round 1. I'm going to get, he's definitely want to come back in this fight, show, hey, I'm still here. So I'm going to take Gunnar Nelson to defeat Takashi Sato, round 1, submission. Let's move on into the next fight, and we have the Batty Pimlet taking on Kazula Vargas. And if this doesn't seem like a fight they're kind of just giving Pimlet to just get in there and get it done, I don't know what is, right? So you have Paddy Pimlet coming in with 17-3 record, and then he's taking on Kazula Vargas coming with a 12-4 record. Both fighters are coming off of a win, but I would obviously look at Paddy Pimlet's last win against Luigi Vendramini, the more impressive. I would definitely take that being the more impressive victory of the two. And then obviously with Paddy Pimlet, he's got a lot of hype coming in on him, and rightfully so. So with this fight, he won that fight in the first round, but very at the end of the fight, he was definitely getting tagged up. He was leaving his chin a little bit high in that fight in the beginning, and he was getting tagged up by Luigi in that one, and it wasn't looking too good for him. But he just kind of turned it around and got really aggressive on him and just walked him down and just was able to land the better shots and put him away, man, just slept him. Now, that being said, Pimlet in that fight, he had his chin really high. It was a little bit concerning. And when you think of stuff like that, you think of if he's fighting a better striker, they're going to take advantage of it. They're going to be able to land the strikes, right? They're not going to let that fight go. Now, I will say, though, his cardio is probably not going to be a problem in this fight. I just read something about him. He used to kill himself to get down to featherweight, and now he's figured it out. So that's good to see. But I will say, for Pimlet Pimblett, yeah, for fighting at 155 or whatever, it's definitely better for him than fighting at featherweight, because that's a little bit too much, right? And it's kind of like Conor McGregor. McGregor was fighting at featherweight, and he was winning. And that actually, ironically, probably is his best division, and he's just not really, he can't hang with the upper weight classes, unless like they're shot, kind of like Cowboy or whatever. But yeah, Pimblett, he's definitely a good fighter. He's coming with a lot of hype. He's got a pretty good cardio, like I said. Grappling, I think, is probably going to be more of his comfort zone. You can kind of see that at least in his last fight with the striking, is it's there and he can land something on someone, but it's not technical, right? It's more of like an aggression, and he just pushes forward and starts trying to land left, right, but it's not really calculated. It's not like, and when he got excited, he definitely ran after him to put him away, which again, like I said, against a better striker, they can take advantage of stuff like that. But that being said, he's fighting a guy in Kazula Vargas who's coming off a win over Zhu Rong via unanimous decision. Vargas, to me, he definitely loads up on a lot of his shots. I think he's going to be the slower fighter than Pimblett. He does have good leg kicks, but that speed and his striking can get a little bit wild. And I think it's even a little bit more wild than Pimblett's. It's not as clean. Not that either of their striking is like top level or whatever, but it's just a speed advantage to me as Vargas. And I feel like because he puts a lot of emphasis into each strike that he lands or that he tries to land, his cardio may not outlast with Pimblett's, and then Pimblett will be able to start working him. So yeah, I don't see this fight going I see this fight going not to decision, but I also don't see this fight ending in like 2 minutes or something like that. I think early on, Vargas might be able to land some pretty good shots, but he's going to slowly start to, if Pimblett can survive and not get a little too crazy, he can definitely start slowing down. Vargas, I can see him slowing down a little bit, and that's when I see Pimblett taking over this fight. And, if he can get some takedowns in there, kind of drown him out, I think he might be able to start looking for submissions of some sort. Now, like I said, whether or not he's able to take him down and all that, we'll have to see. But I'm gonna go on this one. It might get to his head a little bit though, right? So maybe he wants to get the finish on the feet and he gets a little crazy with it, eat some shots or whatever. But I think if he can kind of just outpace Kazula a little bit, get him into that second round, take him down, work him, I can see him getting a submission here. So I'm actually gonna go Paddy Pimblett. I'm gonna take him to win against Kazula Vargas. I'll take him to win by round 2 submission. Move on into the co-main event of the evening, and we have Almighty Allen taking on Dan the Hangman Hooker in a featherweight fight, which is gonna be a little bit weird for Dan Hooker just because he has to drop back down to that weight. So that could be a problem. Obviously, he's a pretty big dude for featherweight, so he's been fighting at lightweight, and now he has to go back down to featherweight. So that could have negative effects on it, but maybe not, right? Maybe he's fine. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. He's going to be the bigger fighter. He can definitely use that to his advantage. And Dan Hooker is like top level. I mean, coming off that loss against Islam Makhachev via submission in round number 1, he beat Nasrat Haqparast, lost to Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, beat Paul Felder, Ali Quinta, James Vick, lost to Edson Barbosa. He beat Gilbert Burns, Jim Miller. So yeah, this dude, he's definitely fought top level guys. His submissions are very good when he gets them, and his striking can also be very good. And he went toe to toe with Dustin Poirier, right? And the strike count is 155 for Dan Hooker, 153 for Dustin Poirier. Obviously, Dustin Poirier, I think, was landing the better shots, but Hooker was able to get 4 takedowns in that fight. Poirier was able to go for 4 submissions in that fight. Obviously, and that was a fight of the night. So it was a really good fight to see. He beat Paul Felder by a split decision. So this dude's really been in it against top-level guys. And when you look at Arnold Allen's coming off of a win over Sadiq Youssef, unanimous decision. Nick Lentz, unanimous decision. Gilbert Melendez. Both Nick Lentz and Melendez are not, top level at all. So those are fights he's kind of had to, I would expect him to win. Sadiq Youssef, pretty good win though, I would say. Unanimous decision victory. Arnold Allen, his striking in close is pretty dangerous. It doesn't seem like it would be when you watch him fighting. It's not like, oh shit, he's gonna knock him out, right? But he definitely has some pretty good power in close. He dropped Sadiq Yusuf a couple times in that fight, or one time in that fight, I guess. So he can definitely use that to his advantage. He obviously has grappling experience. He's always moving too. But the one thing and he has cardio. I don't think his cardio is going to be a problem here. But the one thing I will say is like the competition level. And then, he's going to have to deal with the volume of Dan Hooker when it comes to the striking. When you look at Dan Hooker's volume, 4.90 strikes landed per minute, as opposed to Arnold Allen's 2.96. But Dan Hooker, obviously, probably because of the Dustin Poirier fight and a couple other fights, 4.61 strikes absorbed. So he can definitely eat some shots, but he can go to war, man. And I'm not too sure if Arnold Allen's ready for that. And I know Dan Hooker might be at a disadvantage dropping to this weight class and whatnot, but if he looks good, if we see the best Dan Hooker here, this is going to be a good fight. It's just on the feet. On the feet, I don't know if Allen's going to be able to long-term hang with maybe into that second and third round with Hooker. I think a lot of people are probably counting out Hooker here. I think he's a dangerous fighter still. This dude's fighting top-level guys, so we'll have to see, right? So it's going to be an interesting fight, but I'm leaning towards Dan Hooker just because I feel like this is one of those fights where you're like, oh yeah, Hooker, you look at him and you're like, he's lost to Islam Makhachev, he's done. Okay, he beat Nasrat Haqparast, who cares? He lost to Michael Chandler, he lost to Dustin Poirier, and you kind of just like, anything past that, you're like, who cares, right? But, he took Islam Makhachev on short notice. I think the Chandler fight was on short notice. This dude's taking a lot of dudes on for short notice, and it's top-level guys. So, yeah, he got finished, but at the same time, it's like that doesn't really tell a good picture, right? So I'm a little bit concerned of counting out Dan Hooker here. I think he might be able to just outwork Allen on the feet. He can be dangerous on the submissions as well if he needs to do that. My one concern, I guess, would be if Allen's just looking better because he fights at this weight class and he just obviously looks better. He doesn't drain, and Hooker starts like gassing out or something like that, or he just doesn't look good, and then Allen wins a decision. I can definitely see that happening, but I think if we see a really good Dan Hooker, this is going to be a tough night for Allen, and he might not get finished because he's a tough bastard, but it could be a tough fight for him. So I'm going to go Dan, the Hangman Hooker. I don't think he's done yet. If he cuts weight good and he looks good, I think you can give him one hell of a fight. So I'm going to go Dan Hooker to defeat Arnold Allen. I'm going to take him to win by a decision. Let's move on into the main event of the evening. We have Alexander Drago Volkov taking on Tom Aspinall. 34-9 for Volkov, and then 11-2 for Aspinall. Volkov is going to have the experience advantage. We know that going into this fight. You can see it right there. Experience advantage. Both fighters, though, this is heavyweight. Never know what can happen in heavyweight. You can have you can have a ton of fights in heavyweight and you can absolutely destroyed, or you can lose like 5 fights in a row and just come back and just knock a dude out in 10 seconds. So heavyweight, because of the power advantage they have and the size advantage, it's just, you never know with these guys, right? You might think you know, but I feel like for this, you just never know. Volkov, both guys are pretty big. 6'7" for Volkov, 6'5" for Aspinall. 80-inch reach advantage for Volkov, 78 reach advantage for Aspinall. So not too bad, not too bad in comparison to what, some people that fight Volkov, they've got like a 6-inch reach disadvantage or something like that. For Volkov, 4.86 strikes landed per minute, 2.95 strikes absorbed per minute. So his output is definitely greater than his taking shots. Aspinall, 7.19 strikes landed per minute, and then 2.37. So even better for Aspinall. Now, granted, Aspinall hasn't fought as many times as Volkov has, but still, this dude's been really good in his fights inside of the UFC. He defeated Jake Collier by KOTK in round number 1. Alan Badeau by KOTKO in round number 1. Submitted Andrei Arlovsky, which if you look at Arlovsky in his previous fights, it's a pretty good win to have just because outside of Tom Aspinall, he's beaten 3 guys. So he's kind of like a gatekeeper, but he's still a tough outing, even against, when you look at Arlovsky, you think, you got to knock this dude out, right? But he's been able to hold his own, so this is a pretty good win. He's not fighting an Arlovsky who's been knocked out 8 times in a row or something like that. And let alone he dropped him and then was able to get a submission via rear naked choke. And then in his last fight, Sergey Spivak, he defeated him by elbow, KO TKO in round number 1. When it was a pretty quick finish in that fight. He really has a speed advantage. I think he's going to have a speed advantage, at least early on. We haven't seen Aspinall fight 5 rounds. We've seen Volkov on a numerous amount of times go past 3 rounds. So that's pretty good to see. That being said, though, Volkov I don't think is going to have a speed advantage. I think Aspinall, at least early on, is going to have that speed advantage. Volkov tends to look a little bit sluggish as the fight goes on. And, you know, he has pretty good kicks. He has pretty good elbows. But he's definitely not... He doesn't use, like, this karate-style stance or anything. It's more of, like, that Muay Thai kind of background. And, you know, that can be pretty dangerous and close. He's able to generate a good amount of power and then kind of overwhelm you. If he can push you up back against the fence. Now, if he's the one backing up against the fence, he doesn't look as good. He has pretty good solid takedown defense, and that's going to be important to see whether or not Aspinall is going to be able to get the takedown if he chooses to do so. I don't think he does that unless he realizes, like, I'm not going to take this guy out of there. And then obviously seeing if Aspinall gets too excited or something. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Aspinall is able to do, because we haven't seen him in a 5-round fight. We haven't seen if his cardio can hold up. And then we haven't seen him really have to deal with too much adversity, at least inside of the UFC. But he has really quick hands. And I just think early on, that's going to be pretty dangerous against Volkov. I think Aspinall can definitely take advantage of Volkov not necessarily having the fastest of starts. And Volkov will break you down, though, right? So I think if Volkov wins, it's because this fight goes 5 rounds or in the 4th or 5th round, and we see Aspinall, you know, gassing out horribly. And, you know, Volkov might be looking a little bit gassed out too, but he's just able to start putting things together because, you know, he's like, I've been here before, right? I can start breaking these dudes down. For Alexander Volkov, he's another thing here is that he's not only a veteran in the game, but he's fought top level competition. Before Marcin Tybura, he lost to Cyril Gane via unanimous decision, but he was able to pretty much, I would say, hold on in there. You know, he didn't get absolutely destroyed. He took out Overeem, but we know Overeem has had chin issues. Obviously, Walt Harris, fight IQ issues. Lost to Curtis Blades because he got taken down 14 times, which, yeah, you know, okay, but it was against Curtis Blades. Beat Greg Hardy via decision. Lost to Derek Lewis in a fight that he was winning, though, until he got KO'd, basically. So yeah, this dude's fought top level. Fabricio Verdun back in the day, Struve, Roy Nelson, all these people. So yeah, he's definitely fought top level guys. It's just Aspinall has looked really good in his past fights, and although short fights, I would say he has good fight IQ. He has good patience. The speed comes out of nowhere. Obviously, great knockout power, and I would assume that a lot of people are sleeping on his ground game, which I think something for heavyweights especially, unless that's what they're known for, you kind of forget about it. Especially when you see a dude like Aspinall knocking people out, right? You kind of forget that, like, oh yeah, this dude can grapple. And for Volkov, I'm not too sure he's going to be able to, again, unless it's into the latter half of the fight. I don't know if he's going to be able to get, you know, held down the floor, right? So if he does get held down on the floor, that won't be good for him. But if he doesn't, you know, and he's able to pop back up quickly, we'll have to see. Because I think that would be best course for Volkov would be to hold on, defend takedowns, make it a tough fight, drag it into the 4th and 5th round, see if you can get a finish or decision. For Aspinall, I want to say it's just like round 1 or 2, get a quick finish, take him out. Don't let him drag you into those 4th and 5th rounds. But if it does drag into 4th, 5th rounds, and we do see Tom Aspinall still doing what he's doing and not slowing down crazy and grappling and really showing like, hey, I'm a top level heavyweight, well, then that's a different story. So either way, though, I just see Tom Aspinall getting a victory, and I think early on we figure out whether or not he's going to be able to get that victory. So I'm actually going to go Tom Aspinall in this one. You know, he's going to be in there with the crowd. He's going to be in there, hometown. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be ready to go, and he's looked freaking dangerous against these guys. So Volkov's going to need to definitely absorb some damage early on to deal with him. And hopefully Tom Aspinall doesn't get too crazy with it, gas out early on, go for everything, and not fight smart. Because obviously the crowd can be a disadvantage as well if you get a little bit too hyped up about it. So I'm going to go Tom Aspinall. I'm going to take him to defeat Alexander Volkov. I'm going to take him to do it pretty early too, round 1, KO, TKO. So that'll do it, guys, for my UFC London main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, March 19th, 2022 on ESPN Plus. Should be a pretty good card for the main event, main card, and even throughout the card. I think it's gonna be pretty good, and it's good to see, you know, UFC go back to London. The crowd's gonna be hyped up, ready to go. So yeah, we'll have to see how this goes, but I'm looking forward to it. Leave your comments down below, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.